Bebo, the social network that ruled Britain before Facebook conquered the world. Picture this. It's 2007, you're a British teenager, and instead of scrolling through Facebook, you're customizing your Bebo profile with glittery backgrounds, posting on your friends' whiteboards, and carefully curating your top friends list. This wasn't some obscure platform. Bebo was the undisputed king of social networking in the UK and Ireland, commanding over 10.7 million users at its peak and holding a staggering 42% market share of the British social media landscape. While Mark Zuckerberg was still trying to expand Facebook beyond American college campuses, three friends from San Francisco had already captured the hearts and screens of an entire generation across the pond. Founded in 2005 by husband and wife team Michael and Xochi Birch, along with Tyler Jones, Bebo seemed destined for global domination. The name itself was a clever acronym for Blog Early, Blog Often, reflecting the platform's emphasis on personal expression and regular content creation. But this is the story of how a social network that once seemed unstoppable fell from grace so spectacularly that it became a cautionary tale about timing, innovation, and the ruthless nature of Silicon Valley competition. The Birch couple weren't newcomers to the social networking game when they launched Bebo. They had previously created and sold birthdayalarm.com and ringo.com, giving them valuable experience in building online communities and understanding user behavior. This background proved crucial when they identified a gap in the market that their competitors had missed: teenagers and young adults who wanted more creative control over their online presence than what MySpace offered, but with better usability than Friendster provided. Bebo launched on July 1, 2005, just 4 months after YouTube went live and over a year before Twitter existed, positioning it perfectly in the first wave of Web 2.0 social platforms. The timing couldn't have been better for international expansion, as Facebook was still restricted to college students and wouldn't open to the general public until September 2006. While Zuckerberg was focused on conquering American universities one campus at a time, the Bebo team made a strategic decision that would define their success. They would target international markets first, specifically the UK and Ireland, where MySpace hadn't yet established the stranglehold it had in the United States. This international-first strategy was revolutionary at the time and gave Bebo a massive head start in markets that Facebook would later struggle to penetrate. What made Bebo special wasn't just its timing, it was the features that spoke directly to young users' desire for self-expression and social hierarchy. The platform's crown jewel was its customization options, which made MySpace look amateur by comparison. Users could completely transform their profiles with custom HTML and CSS, choosing from thousands of backgrounds, adding music players, embedding videos, and creating elaborate personal spaces that reflected their personalities and interests. But the feature that truly set Bebo apart was the love system, where users could give and receive hearts from friends, creating a visible metric of popularity and social status that was addictive to teenagers. The whiteboard feature allowed friends to leave public messages on each other's profiles, creating a form of social interaction that was more personal than comments, but more public than private messages. Bebo also pioneered the Top Friends concept, allowing users to rank their closest connections and display them prominently on their profiles, creating social dynamics and drama that kept users engaged and coming back daily. The platform's quiz feature became legendary among British teens, with millions of custom quizzes created daily covering everything from "How well do you know me?" to elaborate personality tests. These features weren't just gimmicks. They created a highly engaging social ecosystem where users spent an average of 40 minutes per session, significantly higher than most competing platforms at the time. By 2007, Bebo had achieved something that seemed impossible just 2 years earlier. It had become the most popular social network in the UK and Ireland, surpassing both MySpace and the emerging Facebook. The numbers were staggering. Bebo commanded 42% of the UK social networking market, with over 10.7 million active users who were spending more time on the platform than British users spent on any other social media site. In Ireland, Bebo's dominance was even more pronounced, capturing nearly 60% of the market and becoming so embedded in teenage culture that teachers began incorporating it into digital literacy curricula. The platform was processing over 2.5 billion page views per month in the UK alone, making it one of the top 5 most visited websites in the country. This success wasn't limited to user metrics. Bebo was generating substantial revenue through advertising, with brands eagerly paying premium rates to reach the highly engaged teenage and young adult demographic. The platform's success attracted significant attention from investors, and by late 2007, Bebo was valued at over $300 million, making it one of the most valuable independent social networks in the world. The company expanded rapidly, opening offices in London and Dublin to better serve their European user base, and hiring hundreds of employees to support their growth. Everything seemed to be going perfectly for Bebo, but across the Atlantic, Facebook was preparing for global expansion with resources and features that would soon make Bebo's advantages irrelevant. The beginning of the end for Bebo came in March 2008, but not in the way anyone expected. AOL, the aging internet giant desperate to remain relevant in the social media age, made an offer that the Birch team couldn't refuse: $850 million in cash for Bebo. At the time, this seemed like a masterstroke. The sale made Michael and Xochi Birch instant multimillionaires and provided Bebo with the resources of one of the world's largest internet companies. The acquisition was the third largest social media deal in history at that point, trailing only Google's purchase of YouTube and Microsoft's investment in Facebook. AOL's executives were convinced they had acquired the key to competing with Facebook and MySpace, gaining access to millions of young users and a platform that was already profitable in multiple international markets. However, this acquisition would prove to be one of the most disastrous deals in internet history, as AOL fundamentally misunderstood what made Bebo successful and how quickly the social media landscape was changing. The integration with AOL's existing services was clunky and alienated Bebo's core user base, while the company's bureaucratic structure stifled the innovation and agility that had made Bebo competitive in the first place. Even worse, AOL's executives failed to recognize that Facebook's international expansion represented an existential threat that required immediate and decisive action. While AOL was busy integrating Bebo into its corporate structure, Facebook was executing one of the most successful international expansion strategies in internet history. Mark Zuckerberg had learned from Bebo's success in the UK and Ireland, recognizing that international markets wouldn't simply adopt American social networks without compelling reasons to switch. Facebook's response was to develop features that made Bebo look primitive by comparison, starting with a complete platform redesign that introduced the newsfeed concept. This innovation was revolutionary. Instead of requiring users to manually visit each friend's profile to see updates, Facebook aggregated all activity into a single, constantly updating stream that kept users engaged for hours. The platform also introduced applications, allowing third-party developers to create games, utilities, and entertainment that ran directly within Facebook, creating an ecosystem that Bebo couldn't match with its limited resources. Facebook's photo-sharing capabilities were superior to Bebo's, with better organization, tagging features, and integration with the newsfeed that made sharing and discovering content effortless. The introduction of Facebook pages gave businesses and celebrities professional tools for building audiences, creating a network effect where users followed their favorite brands and personalities to the platform. Most critically, Facebook's messaging system evolved into a comprehensive communication platform that combined private messages, group chats, and public posting in ways that made other social networks feel fragmented and outdated. The invasion of Britain began in earnest in late 2008, and Facebook's strategy was methodical and devastating. Rather than trying to compete directly with Bebo's customization features, Facebook positioned itself as the more mature, sophisticated platform for users who were growing out of the teenage-focused features that defined Bebo's experience. Facebook's clean, standardized interface appealed to older teenagers and young adults who were becoming embarrassed by their glittery Bebo profiles, while the platform's growing user base in other countries created pressure for British users to join to stay connected with international friends and family. The application's ecosystem proved particularly crucial, as games like Farmville and Mafia Wars created addictive experiences that kept users engaged for hours while simultaneously encouraging them to invite friends to join. Facebook's advertising platform was also more sophisticated than Bebo's, offering better targeting options and analytics that attracted major brands and provided the revenue needed to fund continued expansion. By 2009, Facebook's UK user base was growing by over 100,000 users per month, while Bebo's growth had stagnated and was beginning to decline. The tipping point came when British universities began adopting Facebook for student communications, creating a network effect where students needed Facebook accounts to participate in campus life. This academic adoption replicated Facebook's original growth strategy in the United States and gave the platform credibility among the educated young adults who were Bebo's most valuable users. AOL's attempts to revitalize Bebo only accelerated its decline, as the company fundamentally misunderstood what users wanted from social networking in 2009 and beyond. The integration with AOL's email and messaging services created confusion rather than value, while attempts to modernize Bebo's interface alienated existing users without attracting new ones. AOL's executives, accustomed to the slower pace of traditional internet services, couldn't keep up with Facebook's rapid iteration and constant feature updates. The company's decision to focus on monetization over user experience led to increasingly intrusive advertising that drove away Bebo's teenage user base, who quickly migrated to Facebook's cleaner, more professional environment. By 2010, Bebo's UK market share had collapsed to just 8%, while Facebook had captured over 65% of British social media users. The decline accelerated as network effects worked in reverse. As friends and family members left Bebo for Facebook, remaining users found less reason to stay active on the platform. Bebo's attempts to compete with Facebook's applications by launching their own app platform came too late and with too few resources to make an impact. The company tried to pivot toward music and entertainment content, but these efforts felt desperate and unfocused compared to Facebook's comprehensive social networking approach. User engagement metrics told the story of Bebo's collapse. Average session times dropped from 40 minutes to under 10 minutes. Page views per user declined by over 60%, and new user registrations fell by 80% year over year. By 2013, AOL had seen enough. The company sold Bebo to Criterion Capital Partners for just $10 million, representing a staggering 98.8% loss on their original investment and making the deal one of the worst acquisitions in internet history. The sale price was less than what Bebo had been spending on office rent annually at its peak, highlighting just how completely the platform had collapsed. Criterion's attempts to revive Bebo as a mobile-focused messaging app failed to gain traction, as the market was already crowded with superior alternatives like WhatsApp, Snapchat, and Instagram. The original founders, Michael and Xochi Birch, actually bought back the Bebo brand in 2013 for a fraction of what they had sold it for, but their attempts to relaunch it as a hashtag-based social network failed to recapture any meaningful market share. The platform that had once commanded 42% of the UK social media market couldn't attract even 100,000 active users in its revival attempts. Facebook, meanwhile, had grown to over 30 million users in the UK alone and was generating billions in revenue globally. The contrast couldn't have been starker. Where Bebo once thrived on customization and personal expression, Facebook had proven that users actually preferred standardization and functionality. The social media landscape had fundamentally changed, with users prioritizing communication and content discovery over profile decoration and social hierarchy displays. The story of Bebo's rise and fall offers crucial lessons about innovation, timing, and the ruthless nature of technology competition. Bebo succeeded initially because it identified and served an underserved market with features that perfectly matched user desires at that specific moment in internet history. The platform's focus on customization and self-expression resonated with teenagers who wanted to stand out online, while its international expansion strategy allowed it to dominate markets that larger competitors had overlooked. However, Bebo's failure stemmed from its inability to evolve as user needs changed and more sophisticated competitors emerged. The acquisition by AOL, while financially rewarding for the founders, placed the platform within a corporate structure that couldn't match Facebook's pace of innovation or strategic focus. Facebook's success wasn't just about better features, it was about understanding that social networking needed to become a comprehensive communication platform rather than just a place for personal expression. The network effects that had initially worked in Bebo's favor became devastating when they reversed, as users followed their friends and family to Facebook en masse. Today, Facebook serves over 40 million users in the UK, while Bebo exists only as a footnote in internet history. For a brief, shining moment, Bebo proved that American dominance in social media wasn't inevitable, but it also demonstrated that in the fast-moving world of technology, yesterday's innovation advantage can become tomorrow's obsolete feature. And the difference between success and failure often comes down to who can adapt fastest when the ground shifts beneath their feet.